So let's take a look at all the new features that are coming your way with DraftSight 2026. So there's a few things I'd like to focus in on, and this is just a selection. There are more if you look at the What's New document. So we've got a new start page. There are power tools, new power tools in there. We've got some floating windows as well. We then have diesel expressions, more on them in a moment. Then we have a couple of new ribbon options in here for creating patterns and gradients in our drawings. And then we have the ability to attach ECW files. Again, I'll explain what they are in a moment. And we have the BIM module as well. So let's have a little look at this first bit. So let's have a look at the start page. So users of DraftSight Premium now have this start page when they open up the software. So you can see here we can scale recently used drawings, or you could show it in a list view so you can see where and what they are along with that graphical preview. And it can also be favorited files. We can do a quick search in here, all the different things just to get access. There's a Learn tab with access to new information, and also the My Setup allows you to quickly choose which panels, what interface style you want to use, and other things in there like what style of cursor do you want to have, what interface style do you want to use, and your default templates and things like that. So it's a great little add-on there for users of DraftSight Premium and Enterprise Plus. Then we come to Power Tools. So that's a way to automate certain tasks in DraftSight Premium and Enterprise Plus. People familiar with Express tools in AutoCAD may find these somewhat similar in nature. So what can we look at here? Well, there's a bunch of different things in here. One of the things that's quite nice actually is there's this hatch, this pattern hatch tool. And what that allows us to do is just choose a custom block and turn it into a hatch. Now I've created hatches manually in the past by going and finding the text file and writing in new lines. But this is just so much quicker and more convenient, as we can see here as we just start to add that patterning, add that hatch to these different wall sections. And you can obviously customize the spacing and scaling and everything like that, but it makes for quite a clear way of doing it. So we can also use this to do a number of other things. It could be creating a new line style if you need to map out a new process. It just got simpler for you. There's also a Lisp Explorer, so if you need to find a custom Lisp routine, then this can help with that. And finally, for this section, there's an export settings tool. So if you need to share your settings with another user to either troubleshoot or maintain consistency, then we can now do that as well. Moving on, floating windows. We're all using multiple displays now. I don't think we know, it's rare that we have just a single display. So I used to wear out my Alt-Tab key, I'm sure, when I had an old 17-inch CRT monitor to deal with, and I thought that was the bee's knees. But now we've got so much larger. And again, if you've got Premium, you can just undock the document panel and just shove it onto a totally separate screen. So if you're working on a larger project, you can have that as your reference and have the main work environment on your main screen, so the interface is still consistent. You haven't suddenly lost half the interface by stretching it across multiple displays. Now, diesel expressions. Now, this isn't the time when I accidentally put petrol into my diesel car. There was certainly some expressions flying around then. But what these are is it's called Direct Interpretively Evaluated String Expression Language. So here we can use it to pull data from our drawing if we want. So here it's sort of taking a file name, file path or something like that. So we can sort of get quick values out of a system. These might be for smaller tasks than maybe would be used in a Lisp process. But anything you do that uses these diesel expressions, it's fully embedded in the file. So it stays with that DWG. So if it goes onto another system, the text files are still going to work. It doesn't rely on an external Lisp routine for those to actually operate. Let's have a look at a couple more things here then. So pattern ribbon. You go to create a pattern and it's not quite right, so you're either flipping in and out of the preview, or you're having to hit the undo command to get rid of the pattern. But then if you've done a couple of other steps since, it makes things a little harder. So here we're recognizing where things are indeed patterns, and so clicking on that allows us to then dynamically adjust the spacing, the count, and so on in all the different levels and rows and columns and all that sort of stuff, so that you can quickly manipulate and lay those out. The gradient tool, or hatching even, has also got its own little ribbon in here, so this is a lot nicer in the way it works. So now you can just scroll down, find your gradient, we can put it in there. Now we don't want a red pool, I don't think, so you know, we can obviously just go and change the colouring in there, and it's all just happening nicely on the screen. You can even put a hatch over the top of it if you wanted to, maybe to highlight what the tiles would look like. You know, this is my swimming pool. Yeah, but you know, you can quickly lay those things out. It's just a much clearer and cleaner interface for you to be able to manipulate those entities. Then we come to ECW files. Now, if you're like me, you thought, great, we can support ECW files. Let's have a quick Google to find out what an ECW file actually is. And what that is an enhanced compression wavelet file. So it's often used for satellite imagery or aerial photography. So as we can see here, we have an area of a city somewhere. I'm not going to geoguess where that is. It's certainly somewhere hotter than I am. But we can bring that part in using the attach image function. We could then scale it. So if we know there's a recognizable element in there, so you know, here we have the car park. So we can quickly scale that up to the right size, and we can even use our block library that we now have to add in a block just to maybe confirm that we are scaled correctly if there's similar vehicles nearby, you know, that we can contrast against. And then you can work on your civils work or architectural, you know, positioning or whatever it might be from there. And now we come to the next part, the BIM module. Now this actually isn't new for 2026. It actually came into DraftSight in Service Pack 3 of 2025. I don't know if you spotted that, but you have to have DraftSight Premium or Enterprise Plus to access this. But what this means is now that users of DraftSight can fully interact with the BIM environment. So what we have here is a Revit model. So we can bring it into DraftSight. We can then create floor plans of that, elevations. Okay, from there we could be taking bills of material takeoff lists, you know, various other reports from this document without having to have our own license of Revit, or if it's an IFC file, whatever created the IFC file, because we can just work dynamically with that data. Now we can't edit the data, we are just making reports of it, doing the cross-sectioning, the elevations and the takeoff lists. But it means we're now fully engaged in that process. And if that Revit file is updated in its original location, the drawings are going to update as well. So we have that live link. So again, just really helping us to interact with the BIM environment in a much sort of deeper and more intelligent way than we've ever been able to do before. So that's just a quick whistle-stop tour of a few of the top features of DraftSight 2026. There are more features that have been added in there. If you just have a look through the What's New documentation, you'll find there are some others in there for both DraftSight and DraftSight Premium.